Hey, welcome everyone. This is the Fairfax County History Commission Confederate Names Committee's meeting for Wednesday, September 9th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Our attendee call-in number is 1-408-418-9388, and our event number is 129-461-2638. I'm going to call to order. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, this board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It is a bit cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First, audibility of members' voices. First, because each member of this board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I am going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. I am Barbara Naif, and I am speaking from Reston. Ann Stuntz.
I'm here, and I'm speaking from just outside Vienna.
Carol Herrick.
I'm here speaking in McLean.
Mary Lipsey.
Mary Lipsey from Springfield.
Tammy Mananero. Tammy is absent. Phyllis Walker Ford. Phyllis is absent. Greg Wilson.
Greg Wilson is here in Great Falls.
Staff, Denise Dressel.
I am here in Prince William County.
Liz Kroll.
Sorry about that.
Liz Kroll.
I am here in Alexandria.
Chris Barbashak.
I'm here in Fairfax, Virginia.
Thank you. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board. May I have a second?
Second.
And a vote?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Need for an electronic meeting. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated telephone line and that the public may access this meeting by WebEx, virtual meeting. Attendee call-in is 1-408-418-9388. The event number is 129-461-2638. It is so moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mary Lipsey.
And all approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Take it as a yes. Next, to dispense with FOIA's usual procedures to assure continuity in government continued operations. It is next required that all of the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the state of emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. we will proceed with the meeting. First on the agenda are comments by me. There are very few. Can everyone hear me? I'm not hearing everybody. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to let everyone know that Ann, Denise, and I have been having what we call our mini executive committee of this committee once a week just to keep up with things. And at that point, we discussed and agreed that in the final report, under the recommendations section, we're going to formally recommend to the BOS that all research materials generated out of this project be placed in the Virginia room as a collection. Chris, as if you needed more materials, that's our plan, all right? Also, I've had one or two questions from History Commission, the Committee of the Whole Commissioners, concerning staff help and saying we need it and we don't have it. And so I made a point, and we'll repeat it here. We have had a total of 7 staff helping us on this. At this point, since one of them was Matt, our wonderful intern, and he has gone back to college, we're now at 6. So we have 6 staff helping us. That includes, of course, Denise and Liz and Chris and Laura and Suzanne in the Virginia room, and Denise's a planning tech who is loading data already. So I think that's important to note for the record, and we are certainly very appreciative. Right. Next is minutes, and since Tammy isn't here, I will say that she received no corrections when it was passed to you all for review. And therefore, I move approval of the minutes of the August 19th meeting.
Mary Lipsy seconds.
The second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. They will be posted today or tomorrow, and that's our 19th meeting. We are already down to discussion and review on the agenda. And what we've done is I wanted to see what everyone thought. We have 3 narratives. And as you all recall, in the report, as it starts, we're going to have the board matter will be presented. The refining of the scope, questions and answers with the supervisors will be offered. An executive summary will be presented, and then we go into background addressing the board matters to give the supervisors a context for the historical data that we have collected. The first is the Civil War in Fairfax County. Thank you, Greg. And so Denise, I don't have the ability to put it on the picture. I don't know if people have comments. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to read it. I think it's excellent. And it was, as I noted, and when I submitted all this to Greg did the first draft. Ann worked on it, I worked on it, Denise worked on it, and that's where we are. So are there any comments or thoughts or et cetera for the Civil War in Fairfax County?
I have a comment, Barbara, but it's really a general comment for the overall document. And that is to make sure that we're internally consistent. So within that document, within this section, in some places it said Confederate, and others it said CSA. And I just think that, and I mean, I'm using that as one example, but I think where we're using terms Union and Federal or others that are used interchangeably, I think we kind of need to pick a lane and choose one. I also think that it would be useful to include just a listing of terms in the appendices that we're using, so that if somebody doesn't understand finer points of, different military groups or whatever, like the Army of Virginia, the Army of Northern Virginia, just so that that is defined, because I think we need to make the assumption that the people who are going to be our consumers for this are probably not going to be, Civil War experts. So I worked as an editor when I was in graduate school. And when I read something like this, my inner editor comes out. So it's looking for consistency. It's making sure we, have a list of abbreviations, define our terms, that kind of thing. So and making sure that our audience who might not be familiar with various things from the Civil War, that we have somewhere that they can quickly go look things up. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
This is Mayor.
Thank you very much, Liz. I would add that in going through, in some instances where I saw general, I put union, but then as I read, I saw that Greg had used federal. So that's probably another situation. They mean the same thing, but we should choose one word if we're following your suggestion. Comments on Liz's recommendation?
This is Mary.
Yes, Mary.
I agree with that. I have run into this in the markers in that they don't identify, they just will say generals. And I'm pretty good on Civil War history, but I had to go back and look it up and make sure which side they were fighting on. And those are the historical markers. So anything we can do to make it as clear as possible, so that people reading it in the future don't have to guess. So I agree.
Okay. Others?
Yeah, I'll agree with both Mary and Liz. And I thought the redraft of the at least introduction was quite good.
Okay. Anything else? Denise? Denise?
Yes, yes.
I'm people. I don't know if it's just me. People are freezing in there. We have to really speak very clearly because we're losing bits and pieces of our dialogue. And nothing you can do. I just want you to be aware. So.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
So what I have here are Liz, Mary, Greg would all support a listing of abbreviations or a listing of, I don't know, are you talking, give me an example, like, I'm looking
You want
quickly here.
everything,
Carol?
you want to say Union General or Confederate General, but you want it all consistent all the way through, rather than say CSA General. And then to Mary's point, you're identifying where they're from, what kind of general. But Liz is right. You need to be consistent all the way through.
Right. I was looking to see if there was anything, if there was military here where we talked about battalions or things like that, but I don't see it. So,
well, it's such a long report with lots and lots of words in it in the templates, and so we really do sort of need a style guide, don't we? Because you want us to, somebody's going to have to, if we want this to be successfully conforming with itself and internally consistent, we've got all 25 of us who are working on this, writing in our own ways. But I mean, that could be a last minute editing as well.
If I may, I think when I heard Liz say that she was an editor in a former life, I was exactly thinking that if you want it to be consistent and we have so many people contributing, I think that's going to be my job to make sure that we're using consistent terms throughout the report.
all right. Well, I would, when I look at it, then I'm going to vote for union rather than federal because at the very beginning, resolutions were adopted to expel pro-union, so it's very clear. So that's in Greg's first, the beginning of it. So, all right. Any further discussion? Thank you very much, all of you. It's a very good point, I think. All right.
Distinction. Typically, people talk about, pro-union and disunion in the political sense. in all the political discourse, federal versus Confederate armies in a military sense is an accepted nomenclature, but whatever people want to do. I
Okay,
think most people understand the Union was the federal army presence. The Confederacy had the Confederate army.
okay. And I had used in some of my narratives, the CSA, because it was covering in case we had a political as opposed to a military, but I mean, it's also the CSA or the Confederates, so yes.
It was both, yes.
Yes, so, okay. All right, thank you. Any further questions? Denise, you have another task, I guess. So, all right.
So I just want to confirm that we just agreed that we will
Okay.
not be using CSA as an acronym. We'll be using Confederate or Confederate States or not use that acronym. Is that correct?
Unless we define it, if we're going to have a list of I don't know if we need, my question is, it keeps getting larger and larger. And do we really need, I would prefer that we be able to do what we can without a list of identifications at the end. We have so much already and so that's my suggestion.
I misunderstood Liz, and I thought she was suggesting we may need a list of abbreviations at the end. In which case, abbreviating Confederate States of America to CSA and then using that behind individual names or army names may be helpful just to shorten it.
Okay.
Again, just one suggestion.
Well, we'll have to land on some consistent way to do it.
Well, and I don't remember because I did read it, but you have the Army of the Potomac, you have the Army of the Northern Virginia, you have, these various titles. Are we going to use those spelled out? Are we going to abbreviate them and put, the explanation elsewhere? Those are just things that have to be decided.
Yep.
Well, for instance, it states this is under South Control's western half, and it refers to the Army of Northeastern Virginia under the command of Union General McDowell. So if you read the full sentence, know that that's Union. So then it's going to be a judgment call, but I think it's all. Then the next paragraph we talk CSA. You could say Confederate generals, whatever it is. So I think that, and then the Confederates controlled. Sometimes CSA. I was using CSA as just a break in the word Confederates. So.
So I get to Lisa's point, if we use CSA, it needs to be defined.
That's right.
That's all.
Okay.
All right. And so shall we leave it? My sense is we do, as Greg says, we do everything within the text and not add appendices to a 500-page essay. 500-word essay. Are people in agreement with that, or?
I agree, Herrick.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Mary's okay.
All right, Mary.
Mary's okay with it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't think we're looking at an appendix to this 500-word document. Did I hear you right? We're talking about the whole piece. I mean, we may find as we go that it's that it would be helpful. Maybe we don't decide today, because it could be that this is really, it's so long that I just don't know. We can say we don't think it's a good idea if we can help it, but we've got page after page of templates and lists.
I would speak counter to that because I'm reminding myself and everyone else this is not an academic document. And we have two addendum in the addenda. We do not have appendices, and we need to, I think, again, think of your audience, or as Denise says, the consumers of this, or whoever presented that. I guess that was, whatever, that's Liz. So I would prefer that we contain it within integral to the, each essay. So that's my thought. Again, trying to control the size of it.
This
So,
is Mary then.
yes, Mary?
Asking about our templates, because I'm abbreviating VA, INF for Virginia Infantry, CAF for Cavalry, etc. If you want, I can spell them out, or I can keep them abbreviated.
I think that's the concern that I have, is that we're just looking at one essay and seeing this crop up. We have multiple people contributing, and they're using COL for Colonel. Now, that's kind of an accepted, everybody understands what that means, but there is a lot of abbreviation that I'm seeing. And either I need to turn it into whole words, or we need to somehow define what they're talking about.
Well, I personally, I would prefer the full words in an appendix, because I know that they're going to go look at them. Really, think of the size of this. Think of just the arena in which we're putting this with everything else that's going on. So I'm trying to be very practical. So I would prefer that it go in the particular each document is part of the text. But that's just perspective. Carol?
I have finished mine, and I wrote everything out. So if it was Colonel, I wrote it out. Except I did use CSA a few times, only because I wanted to keep everything on one page when it came to the template. So occasionally I did use CSA, but it was pretty obvious what I was talking about. But other than that, but that doesn't mean that's what everybody has to do. I just happen to do it that way.
This is Mary again.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm also, when I'm writing the 43rd Battalion Virginia Cavalry, adding it's Mosby's Rangers, just because that's what it was.
If you're still speaking, I don't hear it. So
no, I'm just saying that with the 43rd Battalion Virginia Cavalry, that's Mosby's Rangers. So in my template, I am writing 43rd Virginia Battalion Virginia Cavalry, Mosby's Rangers.
okay.
But that's not its official title.
Right. All right. What if you, in the first reference in whatever the document is, whether it's a template or if it's a narrative, it's like you do normally, a CSA paren, Confederate States of America in paren, and the rest of it's all CSA. You don't, would that serve? That's what's usually done.
Well, what I'm submitting will not be altogether in the inventory list. Am I correct?
Pardon me?
What I am submitting, is it going to be a chunk as Braddock District, or is it going to be alphabetized or whatever? And so what I'm saying is, if I do it on my first example, a template, it could be 100 entries later that it appears again.
Mary, why don't you just put it in parentheses, Mosby's Rangers?
That's what I intend to do.
Okay.
Yeah, put it in parentheses.
And just do it every time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Denise, do you feel we've reached a point, or?
I do.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with what we have landed on.
All right, because the burden comes on you, so.
Well, I think this group is hearing these instructions. And what I heard was these instructions. So what I'm going to have to do is make sure that it consistently flows throughout the report. Everybody's information that they're turning in looks the same. So that's what I've heard. I think
Right.
as long as we choose consistency, we'll be okay.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay.
So, okay, are we spelling out? Is that what we're saying? For consistency, we're spelling it all out. Is that what we're saying, or are we saying we abbreviate?
I am comfortable if you'd like to spell it out the first time, Mary, and then put in parentheses your abbreviation. And then I will make sure that those abbreviations are carried through.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me back up. I'm not going to change
Okay.
anything. I've spelled I did everything in full. So I think that's fine. I mean, I don't think we need to go back and start abbreviating. Is what in my report is what I'm saying. Hello?
Has Denise received your report yet, Carol?
No, I'm waiting for two things from the county, but it would take me a week to go back and redo it. I wrote everything out in full.
If I may, Carol, I think that the responsibility of consistency is going to fall to
With
the
you.
person, to the person who's putting this information together.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. With all of this in mind, we're going to go to this next one as would appear in the report, and this is the county historical family names in the Civil War years. It's one paragraph. It has been written and edited. Any comments, recommendations? Discussion?
I have a comment if I have the right edited one. At the end, it says examples, Balls Hill Road, Blacksburg Ford, Fox Mill, and Browns Mill, if I'm correct. Okay. I would like to say that I'm not real happy with that. The Balls family was very Confederate. I don't know about the other two, but the Browns family were not. They were Quaker, and it wasn't called Browns Mill Road during the Civil War. It was known as Walter's Mill. And so Browns
Right.
Mill Road probably should be taken out. And, I think putting these names in there, it sort of is a red flag to people that are reading this, and I'm not sure we need to put those names in there.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, Carol. It's if somebody only reads the first few paragraphs of this, they're gonna say, oh, it's got balls and fox and hunters, and yet we're actually not saying that these are the bad guys. We're just saying these are family names.
Right.
But it may be that the report will speak for itself and we don't need the examples. I'm not sure. Let's think about it.
Well, if I'm looking at Fox Mill, I guess it's a mill. I'm going to think the foxes are just terrible. And it may be that they're Union people. I'm not sure that we should include the names, and people can figure that out when they read the various reports.
I mean, I see what you mean, because we're working so hard to be as precise as we can in our templates or family names or whatever, that by summarizing it, we might be undoing the nuance. I'm not,
Well, I wrote that, so I will explain. Carol, when we first started, used Balls Hill as an example of a family that she was concerned because the Balls were in the, they were Confederates, but they also had been in the county for many, many years, and they had a family. So that was that one. Blackbird's Ford is on the pre-war maps. Fox's Mill Fox was Fox family, same with Hunter's Mill. And I used Brown's Mill Road because it was, the Brown is also one of the names, and it was named because he had a mill and he had a farm there. So that was my logic. It was examples. So it's up to
Brown,
but that was
it wasn't Brown's Mill in the Civil War. It wasn't Brown's Mill until 1890, and they were Quaker. I mean, and so the minute I look at Brown's Mill Road, I'm thinking they're strong Confederates, and that's not right. They were Quakers.
I understand that the Browns, but there is a Brown that is a Confederate name, if I remember correctly, which is why I pulled that out. And all I was able to do on research for Hunter Mill to help Ann was to I went through identified mills. So I know that it was called the Walters Mill, I believe, early on. But because there's a Brown is a Confederate name, and because there's a Brown's Mill Road, I was simply saying this is exempt. It was named that because he had the mill there after the Civil War. So that was my logic, whatever you all want, but I'm explaining what the logic was in that.
No, I hear you. I would like to take that whole last sentence out, but.
I thought it was important to give examples, to make sure they get it.
Well, I guess the problem right now, it says, if I'm hearing you right, Carol, it says, but there's no clear individual Confederate association. So Carol's point there would be, there's absolutely no Confederate association with this particular family of Browns. So you're kind of painting, what's that called? Painting them with tarring them with the same brush. So maybe at a minimum, we dump the Quakers because it's misleading. Otherwise, what we're saying, if you look at what that's an example of, it's just what you've described ahead in the beginning. These are families that lived here that may or may not have Confederates in their background, but because there's no evidence that the Confederate was who it was named after, we've put them under historical family. I just want to make, we're walking a fine line is what we're doing. And so you want it super clear.
Can I suggest something? This is Mary.
Yes, Mary.
A perfect example is Burke Lake Road. I mean, all of Burke Center and Burke Center Parkway, etc., is Burke, named after Silas Burke. Okay, and his son John T. Burke was a Confederate. So that's an example of the family name over that whole area. I mean, I think I had 20 streets with the name Burke in it. And I'd say they all were named for Silas Burke. But
so would you like to have the Burkes listed as an example instead of the Browns?
Well, there's Burke's, there's Lee's, there's Fairfax, whatever.
I mean, we have a long list.
Yeah.
It's a long list.
I'm just trying to get to another part of the county, and they go, oh, Burke, okay?
Obviously, when I wrote it, because this is the only place that I was able to do any research through this whole project, I picked those and I had, so I'm not in defense, I'm just explaining. When we went through the final list that we received, if it's a name of a Confederate, then we needed to note if it was a family name. And so that's how this came about, and that's where the examples were. So I'm trying to explain you to give them a sense of what we're talking about. There are many, yes, throughout the county, and we could put others in. I still feel whatever you put in, it would be beneficial to the audience to have some examples so that they get it. Now we could just use Lee and Fairfax if you want. They're the most prominent.
Another way to do it would be just refer them to that section of the report. Because they have their whole section to themselves, the families, don't they?
They will.
Yes.
They
Yes.
will. I'm trying to understand, whatever you all want to do is fine, but I'm trying to understand, Carol, the negativity of it. But whatever. What do you all as a body would you like to do?
I guess that Balls Hill Road, the Ball family was very strongly Confederate. And people that live in McLean, they have no idea what it's named after. And the minute we start in, all of a sudden, all these streets are going to get changed. There's maybe 4 or 5. And it just seems to me they'll find out when they read the report. But when we put it in right there, it's a red flag. And I would be happy if it wasn't there, but that's not my choice.
Others.
I am concerned.
By the way, as an aside, I sent out, Denise today sent the link that was in the article that I forwarded the school board. And what they've done with family names is fascinating. It's full on research for these names, but they're addressing this issue as well. So, and they in some instances, this is the names of schools, and they carry their research right up to the present time. One of them, somebody by this name, they were in the Vietnam War. I mean, it was fascinating. So it is a challenge, and however you all feel it will be most clear to supervisors, that I think when they started out in one of the names of the streets, they really were not at all cognizant of the fact they hadn't thought it through. They hadn't thought it through. So the fact that there are families here who, yes, during the war, members of those family were Confederates, but it's beyond. It's a greater context than that. So we can take a vote if you'd want, or whatever you all would like to do. We can just eliminate all the examples. That's one option. We can put other examples in, if you would like.
Could we come back and address it later? Do we have to address it today?
Well, I would like to if we can, because this is the group that's going to recommend to the to the committee of the whole, and we have to move on because this is the 9th, and a month from today is, the time.
Barbara, if I may, I really like your suggestion of using the 2 super generic names in Fairfax and Lee.
Okay.
Because it seems to me with Lee for sure, we definitely have things that are named after Robert E. Lee, but we also have things that it's a family name.
Right.
So we have both examples, and it's clear that those 2 names are throughout the county, and they can be associated both ways. So I would suggest taking out the more specific examples of Ball and the Mills, and maybe a broader example of Fairfax and Lee.
I agree with that. This is Tammy. I'm finally here. Yes, I made it. But, I agree. I think everybody will recognize that. It'll make sense to them. And it also doesn't raise any additional red flags that weren't already raised.
Good.
I think that's good. It can't be taken out of context. Everybody knows Lee and Fairfax are consequential and weird, and we're not like drawing our family friends into all of this. Yeah.
All right. I also noticed today, it was very interesting. I was reading portions of the Sully book in a separate dialogue with Mary on the Civil War driving tour, and in reading, I'd forgotten, there were some Lees that were on the union side. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Is everybody in agreement with that? Denise, thank you.
It makes sense to me.
Greg, okay,
No, it makes sense. I'll go with Denise's recommendation, particularly if Carol's finding issues with the names. I think it makes sense just to stick with those two examples. We know the names are an issue, and at some point I'm presuming there'll be the appropriate disclosure and
Yes.
disclaimer about that.
yes. And Mary has done a really, a Lee Highway and the Lee Highway Association, and it's fascinating. So, okay, are we good? That will be edited to say, and the examples include the Fairfax and Lee families. Right?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Appreciate it.
We do too. Okay, and Lee. All right, and then the last is two-part. Last for what we have today. More will be coming. And this is interpreting Civil War history as it happened in Fairfax County, the brochure and interpretive markers. Now this goes, this narrative goes into the addenda, and it is because this is where the sesquicentennial brochure will be provided, and also the Mary's exhaustive list of interpretive markers. So that is what this is for. And this also has been written and then edited by Denise and Ann and Liz, and I was the original author. So that's 4 people have worked on that one. And hopefully you all had a chance to read them, a 2-parter.
This is Mary. I read them.
Yes, Mary?
The markers was a great description of what they are.
Pardon me?
I said the markers description was fine, and the marker description was fine.
I can't, I miss most of your words there, so. You froze.
Mary,
She said that
yeah, I think
the
the
marker
rest of this,
description was fine.
Yeah, the marker description was fine.
The markers what?
The marker description is fine.
Yes, that's what Mary said.
I apologize, but I cannot tell what either of you is saying.
Oh, no.
You're having problems at your end then.
yeah, I think it's Barbara that's having difficulties.
It's Barbara, so you all have to, I don't even have a little red triangle up here to say there's a problem. I just.
You need sign language.
So Mary said that she agreed with the marker description.
Here I do have, now I have my little red triangle. Denise, you'll have to translate, or you all can just move on without me, so.
Well, now that Tammy's here, we're good.
I was taking a look at the first paragraph, and I kind of wish that it said in the paragraph what the date was of the brochure, to sort of show that it's a snapshot in time. I think that's kind of important to include, and maybe even some words that say, like, even 7 years ago, our thinking, if we wrote it today, it would be different.
It's interesting. I would say it's probably 9 years old. I think Liz will remember better.
Oh, is it?
But I think that's a second draft, a second edition.
Ah.
But it doesn't have a date on it. It's just so annoying.
I can check with Patrick Lennon at Visit Fairfax and see what when it was last put out.
Yeah.
This digital version says it's 2013, not this one. This is the paper version. The digital version says, doesn't it say 2013 on it?
Well,
But I just.
I had asked Liz and to see if she could find out, but I didn't. So Ann said I didn't put in because I wasn't sure. So whether it was 2013 or not. It's in that
Okay,
4-year
right
period.
now.
We could put in the that it's, you know, which I think I did 2011 to 2015.
We could, we could say, more than 7 years ago or more than 5 years ago or something.
Other thoughts? I can't tell where it is you want to put that because I can't hear everything. My apologies, but it's how it is.
Maybe in the area when it talks about being an artifact of sorts produced such and such years ago.
Okay.
Produced more than 5 years ago, more than 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mary.
What about instead of produce, created?
Yeah.
This is.
That's the point you're making, right?
Well, just the decisions on what went in and what didn't go in, the balance of it, and then the language around Mosby, I thought was very glorifying. If we were to write that today, it would not be the same. And so
let's use the word written or created rather than produced.
I'd say created because that covers the
All right.
pictures, the packaging.
It's a choice of photographs. It's everything. Okay.
Yeah. This is Mary. I would stick to just the year and not say more than 7 years ago, because next year it'll be more than 8 years ago,
right,
etc. I would just stick to if we can figure out what year it was printed, just stick to the year.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right. I agree, Mary. Created. So to me, it was obvious if it's for the bicentennial that that's when it was created. But Liz, if we can get a date, a firm date, we could
I
put that
just
in.
texted Patrick, so I'll let you know as soon as I've got it.
Okay. Anything else? All right. The markers. And this goes again, this is the Mary's portion. She describes, as I say, she's going to provide the types of markers, the ownership, as far as she can tell, the locations, the narrative content, everything is in her her data list on the markers. So this is just a little preamble that goes in front of it so that they understand. It's interesting. I had an email from a Smithsonian docent friend yesterday. His comment was, I understand that you're going to tear out all the markers. And then he was stationed in Europe for a long time with the State Department. So he's writing about having found this marker, followed it, and found about a major battle of World War I. And if the marker hadn't been there, he wouldn't have known it. And so I have not written him back yet to say the markers they are dealing with history. They are not dealing with glorifying or memorializing people. Their purpose is educational rather than memorial. So I think that's a strong point, and that's where we are with that. Other comments or thoughts on it? Greg?
No, I thought it was fun. No comments.
Oh, okay. Your picture is up there, so I was going to call on you.
And I apologize. I'm going to jump in about 5 minutes to another call that just came up for this other deal I'm involved with. So
that's fine.
Sounds like we're wrapping up.
We appreciate it. And as long as we're going to do that, can I interrupt everything if Greg has to go and ask if you have any progress report or comments on your work? That's the next part of the agenda.
No, not since the last time we talked in the full commission meeting.
Okay, good.
I think everything from my end is done unless Denise or you tell me otherwise.
Okay,
I have a question about the filtered name list. I'm still not quite sure if I'm putting that there's no connection, that's fine. If I'm putting something else, am I absolutely saying that I know that this person's name was put on that street? That's my question.
is your question relating to Greg, or is it Greg's work, or is it
No,
related to the markers?
It's the filtered name list. The filtered name list.
Oh, okay, Greg's filtered, the name list that was filtered.
Every Braddock district filtered name list, okay? And I can easily say family name or no connection. If I do not put either one of those, am I saying that Cooper's Landing is actually named after this Confederate Cooper? Because
I think
have no
there's-
idea.
Yeah, I think there's room for uncertainty. I have different color codings on mine, where if I'm positive it's named after a Confederate, that gets one color. If I know it's not, I have those all cleared as green, like those are not. And then if I'm not sure about it, I've put yellow on there. And there's plenty of yellow where I don't know one way or the other.
It's kind of like we talked from the very beginning. It could end up being a bunch of different lists. God forbid. That would make it very exciting. The ones that are confirmed, the ones that are maybe, and the ones we have no idea, and then the ones we know aren't. I mean, it really, every so often my husband will sit there at dinner and, okay, Ann, here's how many lists this project needs. And he'll go through this project. I mean, it's nothing to do with him, except he's got to listen about it all day. It's a good question, you guys, because it would be nice to be very clear, to have these full templates, nothing removed, and have a comment on everything. But what should those comments be when we haven't a clue? I mean, by their filtered list nature, every single name, almost except for the screwball ones, is the same name as a Confederate. But it could be the Confederate, some general from some other state who has nothing to do with it. So it is tricky. It's a carefully made list that probably, by its nature, strengthens the correlation with Confederate names, because it picks a lot of local Confederates, and they come from a lot of local families. But then you've got the connection, like Carol was talking about earlier, saying, well, it may be that Browns, it may be that that's the same name as Browns, but we know in that case it's not the same family as Browns, if we do know that. So it's like we do need to have some kind of a code. If you put NA, what does that mean? Does that mean no, it's not, or no, the information is not available? I don't know.
I feel like we're trying
unknown.
That's right.
What's right?
UNK stands for unknown.
You could do that in every case that you haven't a clue. It means you found no information one way or the other.
Right.
So does that mean that I do not write a template for Cooper's Landing Court? Because I'm not sure the Cooper is
Well,
there's a Burnside nearby, so that's made me think that possibly this is the decision problems I'm having.
we all are having it.
Mm-hmm. Mary, is that?
No, I've got to run, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Talk
Thank
later.
you. See you later. Bye.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Bye. Mary,
Yes,
is the Cooper street in subdivision where all of the names are directly connected with the Civil War. Some of them are. I mean, some of the subdivisions, they're all there.
They're all have a landing connected to them. But there is a Burnside Landing, which is General Burnside.
Right.
There's Eagle Landing. There's Steamboat Landing. So there's no consistency between it. And the Coopers I found did not live anywhere in the Burke area. But with Burnside near there, I go, well, could it be, you know? I feel like I'm trying
Well,
to.
it's unsubstantiated, but possible.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and I think that's as far as you take
Barbara's-
it.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that's the way I have interpreted it. Like if I've looked at who owned the land and it wasn't related to that, I looked at the neighborhood and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You know, that gets a yellow from me because it's a last name only and it's possible, but it's not confirmed.
Okay, that
Right.
sounds good.
So may I jump in and clarify something for Mary? Because I think, and I may have misunderstood what you asked, Mary, but I just want to clarify something broadly. The only resources or assets that you do templates for are those with Confederate association. So if it's an unknown or an ambiguous, then there's no template. It just gets an unknown or ambiguous beside in the notes column on the table.
Right.
These are Confederates. The Cooper is a Confederate. 3 of them.
Then they need a template.
I'm making a template and I'm putting all 3 names there.
Each asset gets a separate template.
Each name, you mean, gets a separate template?
So, but let me just ask Mary a question. So Cooper is a Confederate name, but the asset, but the resource is not necessarily named after Cooper.
Right.
So in that case, it doesn't get a template.
Right.
So those don't have templates on your listing, your filtered list. You're just making a note in the notes column that says, you know, it's possible because Burnside is nearby. You know, it's possible that this is named after Confederate Cooper, but there is no additional evidence that shows that to be the case.
Right.
Okay, well then I'm gonna have to go back and start over again because, in fact, I'll have very few then. Okay, that's a lot, it makes it a lot easier for me because I cannot, except for these actual 2 subdivisions in Bragg District, that the whole subdivision is Confederate and Union, not just Confederate, but Confederate and Union. I've got to make sure and see if I can determine, we're looking at this part that we can determine that the developer, who's probably named the street, was thinking Confederate as he named that street.
Right.
Okay.
That's all you can offer because I would bet that when the Board of Supervisors, they're going to have enough difficulty dealing with streets that are absolutely, positively Confederate, because of what's involved with changing street names. So if there's any question, my sense is it won't happen. But that's again, Barbara's speaking. Also, I wanted to make a note that that with regard to subdivisions, the subdivision is listed as a subdivision and the names underneath it because it's all.
Right.
So that's the
That's
template.
separate.
The template is there. This is the subdivision. Here are the parts of the subdivision,
Correct. Yes.
which makes it manageable.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It's,
This is
but
Chris.
you
I
know,
got a
Oh,
quick
Chris, go ahead.
question.
Chris, yes.
That raises a question. So if a subdivision doesn't have a Confederate name, but there are Confederate named streets in that subdivision, do you still want a template for that? Or
Not
just
for the
street?
subdivision, but just for the streets.
Just for the streets.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And a perfect example is Mosby Woods. We know the subdivision is Mosby Woods. That's named after Mosby. And I believe the streets in it are all related. And Cheryl has that out at Sully with a subdivision that's full of Confederately named streets, correct, Denise? I think that's right. So, okay.
We have one with all the Mosby's Range.
Do we know what subdivision that is? Do we know what subdivision that is?
Not all told us, but it's buried in my 1,500 emails of History Commission, so I have to look.
They're all Mosby's Rangers.
They're most men, right?
Yes.
That's
The
the one.
the one that Cheryl was talking about with all the Confederates is all Mosby?
Mosby's Rangers, yes. That's what she said.
Oh. Okay.
It was, she got in touch with the developer on that one, and it's Chip Patchouli. In fact, I'm just looking it up to see if I might find it. Carol, if I do, I'll send it to you. Because it's, he was like so, he's the great grandson of Joseph Barry and the great of Captain Owen Barry. So he loves history and he loves Fairfax County, and he said in his email to Cheryl, he said once in a while a developer will he's a builder actually, a developer would let him name a street or name a subdivision, and he loved doing that. He would research stuff that had happened around there and try to get something that was meaningful. And one time he picked Mosby's Rangers.
All right.
I live next door to what's it gonna be called? It's on my list, Mosby's Landing. I mean, I share 400 feet or more with a place called Mosby's Landing, and that's an easy template to write up using oral history as my source. But I live next door. I've never actually, there was an incident there that I've never seen in writing, but maybe it existed, or else it's just lore. But that'll be an easy one. But I don't know why I guess they chose it because they knew this story. My father probably told them.
All right. Shall we, I think we are into the portion that deals with the reports and questions and all. So shall we proceed? Do you want, Tammy, we'll just go start with Tammy because you're the first one in my little list of pictures here.
Okay. I have not accomplished what I thought I was going to do this week because I was so busy with with 106 and then with Wellington, that fire, trying to put out that fire. But Cheryl and I did meet last Friday and just talked about our section. So we have an outline for our section. So that's really the main thing that I've accomplished this week. So
also the minutes and the 106 is incredible amount of work, and I thought, Jordan, it was great in my view. So
well, thank you. It was that was a haul. And I feel out of my element because I really need to. I did print out a copy of applying for National Historic Register because I might have to do it for Wellington. And I thought I need to read through this and really wrap my head around what the criteria are and all of that stuff, because I feel a little bit out of my element there. Okay.
Well, Denise, I hope that you're excited that you're getting it on the date you asked. You wanted it on the 9th. And Tammy, thanks to Tammy, bravo. I think we get it. Jordan responded with some his technical perspective, and so I think maybe you're going to have it.
Yes. I don't know. I'm the bottleneck now.
Watch it, Dan. Watch it.
I left you the difficult job of wrestling with Word and trying to get the format. Ugh.
Yeah. You have to give it one more look at though. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I did email a couple folks. So I emailed the Archdiocese of Arlington just to make sure they were okay with how I characterized the conversation with them. I haven't heard back. And then I also emailed Jeff Clark just if he had any, I didn't give him much time, but just if he had any additional thoughts, he's going to be mad if they, keep saying that that's not historic.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so you're in Cheryl's, that's on the way, and, that is, not due officially until, a month from today, so the earlier the better, but that's.
Right.
so
Yeah, we've got an
These
idea
others
of what we want.
about were due, are due on the 11th of this month. Okay, Chris, let's go to you because you're working 24 hours a day, I think.
It's my life now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, updates on Springfield district. I'm almost done, so it'll be done by the end of this week. The streets are done. I have to write about 7 more inventory reports for street names. And then I still got to finish up the subdivision list, but that'll be finished by this week.
Oh, wonderful.
If anybody knows what Johnny Moore Creek or who Johnny Moore Creek was named after,
Liz can answer that.
Yeah, Liz knows.
It's pre-war.
I
Is Liz
thought as
still
much.
here? I don't see if Liz is still
Yeah,
here.
I'm still here. It is pre-war.
Yeah.
Do you know who it's named for? Because I'm just curious. I couldn't find anything on it.
Let me go back and look through my stuff, Chris, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, great. So that's Springfield district, so that'll be wrapped up. I haven't done any more work on lead districts. Phyllis hasn't sent me anything additional. Mary and I, we're going to meet up tomorrow I think we're dividing, is it Providence district? We're dividing it into thirds. So Mary's going to work on a third, I'm going to work on a third, and Sue Schumann, she's working on a part as well. That's the street names. I don't know about the rest though. I don't know if you've heard any more about like the landmarks or subdivisions and all that.
Mary has said that since she grew up or lived there, she's very familiar, and that's all I know. So I don't see Mary here. This is so.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm still working on Braddock District, but once Chris and I can decide, I'll get started on Providence.
Okay.
Was Chris finished?
Yeah,
I think so. I can't think if I've worked on anything else.
Matt Mason with Barbara Peters.
Oh, yes. I haven't received any other additional requests, so the only ones were a couple street names on there. But if any more help's needed, happy to help.
Okay. I don't know. Our last conversation was last week, and she was really distraught about it. Because this is another one with she's being the Lone Ranger there. So we have urged her. She said she feels guilty coming to talk to you, and I said, please don't, because this is Chris's life, right? So
yes, it is.
So I will check with her again, but you know, we are thankful, and you've made an impossible situation feasible. So we really appreciate what you're doing, everyone that's involved. Okay, Anne?
Yes.
The 100 mil person?
Yeah. Well, it is so interesting. Everything we've been talking about is it's the daily problem of all of this, is trying to decide, you know, in your own little house with the time you have, do you put unknown? I mean, everything that's an unknown, actually, if it's unknown, then further research is required if ever anybody wants to pin it down, you know, and see if they can find an article like Chris did for that Cooper Road over by Tammy, because so many of them will be just unknown, possible, likely, unlikely. I mean, there's just so many categories. I'm almost through with subdivisions, and since that's so big, that will inform a lot of that'll inform a lot of the streets, which I worked on in the beginning, and it was too daunting, so I did all the shorter lists. And I know that whenever I hit anything really juicy, I just write a note to Carol, and she sends me her research, so that works really well. Thank you, Carol.
Yes, thank you, Carol.
It's the ones that run in the woods without their clothes on, you know, that's what I send her.
So, I mean, it's a frustrating project, because, you know, like a week goes by and you haven't gotten back to it because you really are dying to, but also because there's a lot that is inconclusive. And
Right.
that's just so irritating for all of us. Now, I feel like I should pick a few that I'm really with my own limited resources and coming up with not much, and go ahead and make Chris or somebody do it. But everybody's going to start doing that. And so we better not. I mean, you've only got a month. So if anybody's going to need to do that, they better decide really fast. You know, for example, in Mason, if you haven't been working in Mason yet much, Chris, well, we need to just double check, don't we? And make sure that everything's going swimmingly. Because you just don't want anything at the 11th hour. You know, if you have time, you can do it. But anyway, I'm feeling reasonably good on Hunter Mill. I just think this is so fun to do, but it's also so frustrating because you don't always get to the bottom of it.
Right, and I would urge that no one, other than the districts that you're already working on, let Chris finish some before anyone else asks for help, unless it's an absolute dire situation. And I will double check again with Barbara Peters. So, because she, you know, she basically had orders from us to go to you. So that's the one I will check on. So, okay. All right, Mary.
Well, I'm learning so much and it's just incredible, but there's so much I want to share that doesn't have to do with Confederates. For
Right.
example, we have a J. Manny Jackson subdivision, and I found out he was drafted to the United States Colored Troop at the age of 42. And I want to share that with people. But anyway, and then I'm also taking some time out to work on the Carrollton marker. But I just want to share this one, and then I'll just say I'm going to go back and look at what I've already done and see if I can, you know, make more definitive choices here. But we have, it's not the Dixie Hill Park, but it's Dixie Hill Road. And in doing some research, I found out that there's a possibility that Dixie was named after, let me get it here, Jeremiah Dixon of the Mason-Dixon line, okay? Or it was named after Dixies, D-I-X-I-E-S, which were $10 bills printed in Louisiana, and D-I-X is the number 10 in French.
Hey, Mary, I
Yeah,
could
go ahead.
chime in because
Yeah.
Dixie Hill Road is in Springfield District, and I was going to write a report on that one. It's actually named for the development company, was named Dixie Hill Corporation or something.
Really? Because it's listed under Braddock District.
I guess it splits up between the two. Or maybe there's another Dixie Hill Road, but
This is near Dixie Hill Park.
this is Dixie Hill Road. I guess maybe there's a park near it.
Yeah, well, they changed the name to the park already, but it's near the Fair Oaks area. Well, I'm going to send you my stuff, Chris, and you can do with it whatever you want.
Yeah, I'll knock that one out. Sure.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm plugging along. That's all I can say. I did find an additional marker just by using hmdb.org and researching the Carrollton marker. And I always look at markers nearby. Found one I hadn't seen before, so I've got to go back. And so Denise, you're going to get a separate file that's Mary's marker file 6, and it's going to be a catch-all. If I find any more markers before this thing is due, it'll be put into that one.
And this marker is the spy with the glass eye.
Correct.
How's that for a title?
On Old Beulah Road, yes.
Which is neat. Okay.
So
Thank you.
I have
and-
a question for Mary, or for Mary's issue, that first thing that you mentioned. when you said you found this, that it was named after somebody really interesting.
Right.
I say there's room for that because by virtue of knowing that, you know it's not Confederate. So
Well, it is Civil War connected.
I would, but like what was that one I told you? Francis Young Road off of our Beulah Road. I can't help but say, and I quote, Francis Young was one of my father's best friends and he was not a Confederate. That's all I'm saying. But I get in there, which I think is cool. And it's completely extraneous, but it's the way I'm proving to myself, if to no one else, if Denise knocks them all out, it's my way of showing that he wasn't a Confederate because he was my father's contemporary. So I don't know.
Then also, I don't know, I everyone that sends me, I really do read all of it, but it's trying to keep it all up here. But one of the subdivisions, maybe it's one Mary sent me, has both Confederate, and I thought it was interesting because it has both Confederate and Union names. It's everything. And I think I would agree somehow. I don't know how Denise is, when you do your list, if you just put over here, it's, Union, so that it was in the war, but it's a Union person, because I keep going back to the Q&A, and they want, the balance. They wanted to know what the balance was. And of course, we show that in the interpretive markers because that's what they are. So I don't know, Denise, if that would confuse your everything, but it does. It's interesting when there is a Union reference within the context of the Civil War.
I think Carol has come across that as well, if Carol wants to speak to it.
Okay.
Wait, I took a little roundabout here. I was looking at something. I'm addressing what? Union and Confederate?
You have found some Union names.
Yes.
Yes.
In some cases, I did include them because they fit in with what we were talking about, and Denise can do what she wants to with it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I think there's maybe three, but she can do with it what it sort of fit in.
Okay.
Well, and this is Mary, and that's why this Jeremiah Manny Jackson, his family's buried on what is now Burke Presbyterian Church property, but they were an African-American family who prospered in Burke. And the fact that at the age in the 40s, he's drafted for 1 year to the United States Colored Troops. It's just a fascinating story. And there's a subdivision named after him. So I'll put it in as a template, and Denise, you can decide whether it should go in. Now, those 2 subdivisions I've done, I've been trying.
Well, wait, hang on a minute. Then I've got 2 or 3 people I would have to put in.
Yeah, so let me just say, Mary, that I would not put it as a template.
Okay, all right.
You in the notes column, you can note that this was a Burke family. Yeah, just a note. But don't make a template, because the Confederately named things are going to be in a separate section.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. Okay.
Right.
And Mary, save that for our exciting project that will come after this.
Okay, all right.
Right, because there's some great examples. So I was researching one in Lorton, and it's Wiley family. And I discovered that Wiley, whatever the name was on our list, was he was like a private in the Confederacy. And but then he later, after the war, he came back and he was treasurer of Fairfax County for like 30 years. Right. And I thought, wow, this is an interesting story. They're going to have a big fight over this, because then you have to sort of judge his legacy. Well, but then I found, in Chris's fashion, I found, a connection article that said that the road was named actually after his son, who was born after the war. So I was like, no, I won't get to tell that story. So it goes in the notes, and maybe we'll come back to it at some point.
Well, it's interesting if even Mosby, if you look, he became a friend of Grant and was all into reconciling with everyone. So I referenced today when I sent the link about the schools' names, is that this is the problem of in a 4-year moment of time right here, but you have everything here and everything on both sides of it. So it's not this simple task that the originators of it anticipated, right? That's what we're proving. So did I cover Liz? Liz had no further, she's where she was, not really, but she had no further progress on this. And did I cover everyone except Denise? Okay, Denise.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. I thought you had said that you were all ready. I apologize.
Well, I'm not. One, I had told Denise I would have it ready by today.
Right.
And it was going to be ready by today, but we had a huge lightning strike, which hit our neighborhood bad. And we're back and running, and I have 3 left, which I really don't need, but I just kind of want to, and the archival division said yesterday they'd have it to me. This is for Denise more than anything. They'll have it to me today or tomorrow. So as soon as I get that, you get my thing. Now, I have 119 pages, templates. So, okay, she can toss some out or whatever. But anyway, I have 2 of the schools that you talked about, Barbara, Haycock and Shreve. So, Mary, you and Chris can either do Shreve Road or not. I've done Shreve Road, the school, and the subdivision, but you can do it too if you want. And basically what I said is basically what they said in that article. And what I'd like to do is have Denise look at what I've written and go over it before I send it to everybody, because she may look at it and say, no, we've got to do something or whatever. So have her look at it. And I have probably 5 or 6 that I know positively are Confederate, but I can't prove it. So I'm not putting them on the list, obviously. But they're just so strongly Confederate, it's just unreal, but I can't prove it at the moment. But I do have a question, and that is, if the newspapers call, I have lost the name of the county person and the phone number of who to have them call. It was on my desk, and somebody was cleaning my desk and tossed it away. So if you could forward that number to us, because I think we all should have that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree. And I actually think that it's a new person because there was a person who was out on maternity leave. And so Brian Worthy was filling in for her, but I believe she's back from maternity leave. So Brian would be fine, a fine contact, but we have a person specifically assigned to this project. So.
Oh, good. That would be
okay.
I'll send that to you, Carol. Well, I'll send it to the CNC, but if somebody could distribute it to the committee of the whole, that would be great.
Okay, and I was going to. Okay, and I was serious in that if you read the background information from the school reports, school research on Haycock and Shreve, it's all right there. You don't need any more research. It's there, and it's amazing. And it's
well, I had already done it because the road is a Shreve Road and a Haycock Road. So I had already done it, and it was pretty much basically the same,
sure.
Give or take. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Now, Denise.
Okay. I'll go back on camera.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so my report. So as reported earlier, and as I reported to the History Commission, I now have assistance from Kira Davis, who is a DPD Heritage Resource Planning Tech, which is wonderful. I'm starting with her. She's working with her only part-time right now, but in October she's all mine, or mostly mine, to work with. And we've begun consolidating the interpretive marker templates that Mary Lipsey completed in order to format those for the report. I'm working with Ann and Barbara. It was determined that the data from the monuments, memorials, and plaques that Mary collected should be treated separately and included as a separate section in the report, since the board matter requested this information be included in the report. So we have to call those out, and Kara will be doing that and set them aside to include them in a separate section. So that has started. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, sorry. It sounded like somebody needed me. Staff has been reviewing and editing those the background information section, which we just went over. Once reviewed and finalized, I'll begin to assemble those into a draft document so we can start to take a look at how it should be formatted and the flow. I've also begun to assemble some of the completed work for each magisterial district to work through formatting decisions and some quality control issues for consistency, as we were saying earlier, in reporting across the districts. Then the next week, I'll be working with Kara to complete a draft of the data tables for one entire district's data to use as a model for assembling the rest of the district's data. And I have a request, as you complete your work, please turn it in. Please turn in your completed tables as soon as you possibly can, sending the information to me as you go. And then also, if you would, in the email, let me know that this is a completed work, because I'm getting a lot of emails that have drafts and questions, and I'm not positive what's complete and what's not. So if you could just label it as complete and turn it in as soon as, if you're done, like for instance, some of the shorter tables, if you're done with those, just send them to me, because then I can start compiling them, putting them together. That would be very helpful, just because we're going to hit a real-time crunch in October.
Yes, we are.
So I just wanted to remind people of the things that were due today or due this week. One is the refining the scope, the introduction to the questions and answers from the supervisors, the family names paragraph, which we went over today, the brochure and markers paragraph, which we went over today, the list and counts of named things in the county, which you've all heard me say a million times, but it actually has to be put into words now. That's me. The identified Confederate names methodology, and Mary's given me a draft of that. The short list section methodology. So Liz and I need to get on that. That hasn't been started, but it's just a paragraph. And then the sorting and filtering methodology that actually Matt did before he left. I asked him to complete that, so that's done. So those are the things that are due this week on Friday, and then the next due date will be in a month on the 9th of October.
Right. Okay.
I know, and if I may take one or two more minutes, I'm hoping that we've cleared up the issue about the templates. That templates should only be done for those that are absolutely positively Confederately named, and that gives more information about that resource, like where it is. So this will help the supervisors in making determinations about future action. And then I also wanted to point out that I have place markers in the outline of the report for conclusive Confederate Association, county historical names, and then inconclusive Confederate Association. I was not intending on reporting those names that were not Confederately related.
Right.
So I hear though what this discussion has brought to my attention is that we're doing research and we're uncovering interesting history that is not Confederately related. So I was never intending on putting that research in the report, but I'm hearing that maybe you all want to have that represented someplace?
I think it's important to have it so that if during the public part of this process, somebody comes forward and says, I live on a Confederate street, I know it's named for a Confederate, that we can very quickly find that information and say, this is what we researched and this is what we found. So I don't know whether that means it goes in a report or it's in an addendum, but it has to be easily searchable. We have to be able to get to that data, I think.
Fair enough. So I can see that point. I think there's also a separate category for those that maybe, so what I have is a list of NAs with no research.
Right.
So what do I do with those?
Well, Denise, in my subdivisions are both Confederate and Union, and so I listed every name in the community, in the subdivision. There, in each case, there's only 2 or 3, I have no idea what their connection to the Civil War is. But it is a straight description of the connection to the Civil War for all of them. Okay, that I can find.
Well, so that's fine. I guess it's not the ambiguous, but it's the ones where they say where I have a note beside it, then it just says NA.
Oh.
There's I have no research. I have no, so I guess and then everything that Matt highlighted in red that he just excluded because, there were the funky matches, or to Tammy's point, I think it was like, because we have AP Hill, we caught every hill in, every hill name thing for health. So we know that we can drop those out. I was thinking for sure that we would not report on those. Or this is a question, do we give them 30,000 named things with a note beside it? I don't know. I need an answer, that, do we wait until some more data comes in and we start looking at it to see how, what it looks like? I do know that I have a whole list of things that just have NA beside it. And that doesn't have any meaning to me.
We came up, if I could speak, one of the NAs, I don't even know who I was talking to, but my example over and over is purple martin. It's a bird. It's an NA. Or it was on the red list. But if I come back to the balance, so if it's a firm union, it seems like it would be important to include that. But how you include it on the research sheets alone, so that we don't lose it? This is a question. Because the assignment is Confederate names. We have to go back to the assignment, not academic. It is for political reasons, understood, appropriate, but it's not academic. So to provide them with a listing that is that large, I think defeats the purpose of what we're about. And we have to remember that. But I do think if it's a confirmed union, like Mary's found in some of her, and I would imagine I've forgotten who it was, Anne, that did. This is going to be in Springfield, I think, because it's next to Ox Hill and it's Lee Jackson Highway. And then the developer said, well, the land was so involved in the Battle of Ox Hill that I just picked the names. And so even if you think about the 6 monuments, which is all we have, one of them is John Quincy Marr. The others are all at Ox Hill, and they are all for Union. That's it. So if we had not extended, do you also want we assume you don't want markers, and the response was, oh, but we do. That's all they'd have. 1 Confederate and 5 Union. And that includes the concrete stump and Kearney's tree, the stump, and things like that. So somehow I think it's important, and this may be, I quote you again, Denise, on project design on the fly. But that's my thoughts on it, is that that's an important element to put someplace.
But I see what you're saying, but I think confirmed union will be in the minority. And I think a confirmed union tells you it's not Confederate. So it goes in the cell. Whether you provide additional information is another question. But at a minimum, you go, well, this isn't a Confederate at all. This is General Kearney or something. So if I were doing it, that's what I would say. In every case, when I have reasoning, I try to put it in, even if it doesn't make much sense to poor Denise. It makes sense to me, and my hope is that I'll get back to it and make it clearer. But I think getting back to Denise's questions about the what may be a huge number of NAs. I mean, it might be that people, I don't know. You've gotten some finals already, Denise, and there's a fair number.
Yes.
Are the NAs all from one district or just separate?
I've only looked at one district, and I only have what I would consider completed, and even that's not even complete, honestly, because I don't have everybody's. Yeah, I don't have a complete district yet.
Yeah, because I don't use that as my reason. Like instead of putting NA, I'll put this is a bird. This is West Ford rather than a Confederate Ford. Like even just a short thing that says why it's NA. I mean, I think that's important because there's a difference between ruling it out because it's a natural feature and ruling it out because it's a different person.
Or ruling it out because you have no idea, not ruling it out, but put in NA for no reason other than you just didn't get around to it and you ran out of time. That's not okay if there's another option. I guess I would be tempted. This is one of our favorite things, and you're so confrontational, Denise. You can go back to the person who wrote it and say, well, what was your reasoning? What do those NAs mean? I mean, I would never leave Purple Martin, just to go back to Barbara's favorite one. I'd never leave Purple Martin. I'd say it's a bird.
I did in my little thing. I did.
Yeah. Well, and most importantly, like if you've ruled it out because it's a family name, does that go in the maybe file? Do the things that are family names, we've ruled it out because it's a family name, but does it still go into the maybe I mean, that's another whole problem.
So to me, that goes into the family names. I mean, we just have a separate section for family names.
Yeah.
It's just a separate.
NA should not be on family names, even though somebody could rightfully have said this is not named for a Confederate soldier. That should not have an NA by it.
I think the thing that I'm hearing from this discussion and from the information that I've received so far is that there's not that we have multiple different researchers with multiple different approaches to research. And that is going to be the challenge of assembling all of this data, because some of it will be rich and some of it will be scant. And I'm not exactly sure how we're going to deal with that. I mean, Tammy, it seems to me that you have quite a system of the way you've broken it down. You've just categorized everything, and it sounds like Anne's doing the same thing, and Mary.
And Chris looks remarkably like mine. I looked at that and I thought, oh, this looks just the way I'm doing it. Yeah.
And Carol has 110 templates to give me. So, I mean, I think there's going to be a difference in the data that's coming in, and I do have just columns of NAs, and I don't know what to do with that.
My feeling is maybe we share a little bit of with the gang. If we have some easy guidelines, you don't necessarily want to give them pages of how to fill out and do Tammy's yellow over here and Tammy's green over here. They'll all just quit. But
Yep.
But I would be tempted to say, if you put NA, I mean, where do you draw the line in telling somebody what to do? If you put NA, it tells me you never got to any, what would it tell you? It tells me either you didn't look at it at all, you ran out of time, didn't research it, or to the extent you did research it, there was no evidence one way or another. I mean,
Or it means it doesn't apply. NA, it doesn't apply, period.
Yes,
It's
but
exercise,
that's not,
it doesn't apply.
but I don't think that's good enough for this. That's like leaving it blank. And if we actually know that it's a purple martin or a ford of a stream, we should say geographic description. If it's village green, it's not Confederate green. It's the name of a thing in a village. I think otherwise it makes it look like you have no idea. And I know what you're saying, Barbara, about NA, but it doesn't give you any of the reasoning.
I mean, I'm obviously in a minority here, but I keep going back to the audience, or as I guess it's Liz, whoever said Liz, that it's the consumer of this. And I'm trying to make it as clear and as, pardon the word, simple as we can to get across what they need to know, period. And so, I just approach it from not from the research, but from the, again, it's not what the commission wants, it's what the Board of Supervisors wants. And so I'm trying to put that mindset on it. And if she already has NAs, she can come to, like Reston. I don't know what you put. I told you when I found the Reston streets, just write Reston. And there's a paragraph that explains that this is what Simon picked, this is why he picked it, this is why it's a Reston street, the end, period.
Yeah.
But what it sounds to me like you're saying is that everything will be reported. Everything will be reported. And which means that we're going to have all of that data is going to be in the report. So you're saying, Barbara, you're saying no, that it won't all be reported. Does that mean that I leave off everything that's, like, I just leave it out? If it says NA, then it's not reported.
If I were in your chair, I would leave it out. And that may be a really bad thing to do, but that would be how I approach it, again, because of what the mission is. What the mission is, it's right here. It's this village, not the whole countryside. That's a terrible analogy, but that's what I mean. So
that's how we designed it. But I wanted to confirm because I heard a different conversation today, and it sounded like it was going to be broader. I just need to know.
Can I ask a question? This is Mary.
Yes.
Okay, I did my Lee family template, which I took all the names that have Lee in the Braddock district, and I have put them on a separate page.
Right.
I put the year that they were, named, etc. I know for sure that Lee Street in Burke was named for Robert E. Lee. They have a Lee Street and a Jackson Street, and I know that because of oral history of a person who lived there. So they're getting separate templates because I know for sure that they were named after Confederates. Is that
Right.
okay procedure? A Lee family template.
Right, but it's Denise's call.
So you're saying that there is one template for the Lee family, which I don't think that we actually need a template, but that's fine. I can take that information and include it in the family names.
Okay, on the second page are the list of streets that I would not say were named for Robert E. Lee. I know of at least one street in Burke that was named for Robert E. Lee. It's getting a separate template.
Yeah.
That one actually gets a template. In this research design, that one street actually would get a template. And then all the other Lees would be in your list of street names. Beside it, you would have, in your notes column, you would have family names.
Or Lee family.
Or Lee family, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So you don't need a template. I just need a
Okay.
little paragraph about Lee and what the Lee family meant to Fairfax County. And then just in that column, just mark off Lee.
Okay,
Lee.
okay. All right.
Thank you, Mary.
So in terms of what goes in the report, I mean, I'll go back to, the idea that, somebody from the public is going to come forward and ask a question, and they're probably either going to go to Heather in Historic Records or they're going to go to Chris. And this work product that we've created is very valuable, I think. And so to me, it's fine if it doesn't go in the report, but it can't end up on the cutting room floor in my mind.
But that's why I've said, and at push, Greg was the first to bring it up, but we all feel the same way, is that we have a formal recommendation in the report that all materials, all the research, all of it is going to Chris's wonderful, spacious Virginia room as a collection, so that it's not scattered around, it's all together as whatever we're going to call it, Confederate Names Inventory 2020. There it is, all of it. It's going to deal with all the different things we have, so that when the public asks, that's the BOS's issue. And so if they want to know, we'll say we have the research and here we can get you the information. We, or the archives, or Chris and his cohorts, or whatever. So it's there. Meanwhile, the BOS has something that they can use to make these decisions that they have to make. And remember, in addition to all of ours is the questions that Denise has collected that from the county attorney. What's involved in changing names? What is the cost? All of that, we're just one part of it. So anyway, I'm on my soapbox and I'll be quiet, but that's how I feel. Chris?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys on the History Commission already have that webpage, that's Confederate Names webpage. You could maybe upload those Excel documents as, this is an example of all the work that we investigated, and save it as a PDF or something on there, if that's something you wanted to do, because you guys already have the existing platform to put it on there.
That's true.
It would crash it so much, it would probably crash it, don't you think?
Yeah.
We have, because of the, probably, as Denise has alluded to, or said out loud, I can't remember which, an inconsistency among there's Carol's, that's 119 templates, plus whatever else she did. And then there's, mine's not gonna be like that. And, there is just, they're gonna look different. I can see for me, if I don't want to have a lot of different documents kicking around. I really just want to work with my lists, and my lists are going to say Hunter Mill District and each one. And maybe what we do in order to kill all these birds with one stone is, if it's not applicable and we know it and we know why, we start off with an NA. And then we give it a parenthetical about what our reasoning is. And you can dump all that later, Denise, but it's at least somewhere in a tidy district by district format. I mean, not everybody's, we're all different. So maybe that's not how other people even want to do it. But it sort of suits me. Every time I have an NA, it feels like a flag that I failed. I really want to put an NA and say, this is named after, my elementary school librarian. But, I want to say, and in those cases, I'm not gonna, and it is a failure on my part because I won't know. And those will just be plain old naked NAs.
And on the instructions, the way I read it, it says no connection.
Well, that's yes, and
then there is a difference. Yeah.
That's good. So which is it though? Because
no connection.
we know what NC means. It means you found no connection. Does NA also mean no connection? I mean, Denise is the one who said she's been getting tons of NAs.
I will I will claim when Phyllis talked to me a while back, this is before Chris was, we knew that he could just give 100% of his time. She's the Lone Ranger in Lee District and was just really desperate and called me and what to do. She said, in some cases, I know the names because it was named for my grandfather and my great grandfather, but others not. And so we talked about it. And part of the NAs come from Phyllis, I would imagine, because that is my call, and it was based on my interpretation of it. So, you know, Denise, if you want to send them, I don't know when I would change them, when I'd have time to change the list, but that's behind it. It was trying to help her get to the critical pieces in Lee District as a working on her own with no help.
Right.
Thank you, Chris. So she was first. That's why she and Lee District were first in line to go to when we knew Chris could help us. So that's the background there. And it was a different interpretation of what it does not apply. That's not what we're focused on. So that's how that came about.
So we really don't have anything that indicates I have no idea.
It just, and it wasn't, it was, we know it would be like the Reds, but it's before the Reds came. It would be like, this has nothing to do with what we're dealing with.
But I think we're confident that if we've done our research on the names that we have, anything that we have, and we cannot see that name associated with a Confederate, that no connection indicates it has been researched. It's not that we're guessing. We have looked at it, we've said there is no connection.
I'd be interested if that's actually the case with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, with Phyllis, it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't, oh, I don't know, so I'll put that. It was those that she knows and that weren't connected. So it's a challenge. I'll be right back.
I just know there's so many. I mean, I hate to even say it out loud. There's so many where I really just have no idea. I mean, it's like, and so I guess it goes back to what you said, Mary. There's nothing obvious connecting it unless someday somebody finds a letter in their attic saying they went to the ribbon cutting of the Ann Stuntz Memorial Highway. Then we know it's me.
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, it's also what Barbara has been telling us all along. It's a best efforts.
Right.
We're a bunch of, some of us retired old folks who are in a pandemic and maybe not spending a million hours at the libraries and but we do have a lot of resources. But you know, I can't Google, I mean, I can't look in every Evening Star and Connection for every road. I don't think I'll have time for that. But it sounds like you're doing it, Tammy, and you're doing it, Chris.
Well, but I was going to say some of my NAs are, so for instance, in my own neighborhood, there's a Crowley Street, which theoretically is a Confederate name. But the larger theme that I see in the neighborhood is that all of our streets are named C, D, E, F, and we've never been able to figure out why. I don't know why. Gosnell named them that, and I'm still trying to figure out. But anyway, so and I haven't actually done this one yet, but when I get to Crowley, I will probably say the rest of the neighborhood has this alphabetic theme to it. I don't have any reason to believe it. Doubtful. And I'll leave it at that. That's the extent of my NA.
Doubtful. I have no connection, unknown, not Apple, and doubtful. There we have another.
Doubtful. There you go. So we just keep coming up with adjectives, right? But so sometimes I'm looking at, who lived on the land. So I'll look up Crowley. I go back to the list and say, who the heck was Crowley? Did he come from Northern Virginia? But I look at the theme of the streets in the neighborhood, because that should give us cues as to where these names came from.
Yeah. If you have the time.
Right. I was just about to say that. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir with this group, but use that priority names list and start there. Make sure that we're hitting those those short names. I know, I mean, Mary, when you stumble across a whole neighborhood, a whole subdivision, you gotta hit the bonanza. And that's certainly something that's worthy of recording. But just in general, I would say prioritize. Yeah.
I think
That's why Crowley hasn't been hit yet.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
it's so easy to forget those 50 names or 55 names. It's so, I mean, it's rich for people that like to research. It's rich. I mean, just today, what I was doing was Mary and a quote about a sign on the Civil War driving tour. And I got the Sully book out and I got all involved, and I'm thinking, Barbara, this is ridiculous because, but it was fun because, it's the part I used to deal with all the time. And so there I was. So I totally understand that. And I think back to early on when Ann said Pickett Street is for the man named Pickett that lived there and is nothing to do with Pickett of Pickett's Charge. And that's
there are loads of other Picketts.
So is it Charles Pickett that it's named after?
The one in Fairfax City for sure.
Okay, so Charles Pickett was the chairman of the Centennial Committee.
Right.
He
And
was president of the historical. He was Chris's predecessor.
Hey, now see, this is what's happening. We're getting offline and we're
It's so true.
2 minutes.
I apologize.
No, don't. And Denise and Tammy, I thanked you in absentia for the minutes, and I hope you're taking notes today because mine are not the best I can do.
Since I've been here, I have notes.
Well, luckily it's been recorded, so you can always go back and take a look at what you've missed.
That is
So
true.
Denise, have we helped at all or just muddied the water or spilled the ink is a better analogy for this?
No, of course. The discussion is always helpful.
Okay.
I think as this committee moves forward and we continue to refine what this report is going to look like, it will become apparent what needs to be done. I do see the validity in keeping all the research. I'm glad we have a home for it. Thank you very much, Chris. But I do think that focusing this report on Confederate names and then period. And then a section for family names is what we really need to do.
Right.
Right.
I wish that everybody could have a copy of Brothers and Cousins, because that's what my major source is, which is the Confederate Soldiers and Sailors by William Page Johnson, because it gives their background, where they were born, if he knows it, where they're buried, what their occupations were. So that has been immensely helpful with me in looking at these streets and putting it together. And I don't know if anybody wants to ask me a name, I can look up at Brothers and Cousins and tell them what research he found about them, because it's very inclusive.
May I ask a question that leads into my question, Denise? Is the methodology that Mary, the latest effort that she has, enormous effort with all capital letters effort, sent to you, is that along the lines of, will that be helpful the way she's?
So I honestly haven't read the paragraph today. That was the thing that we received today.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I apologize. I did not have an opportunity to review it today. I will tell you though that my thought behind the all of the resources is to include those in the bibliography. I wasn't necessarily going to include those in the methodology section. Those were going to be included in the bibliography.
Somewhere in this drafting process, I had said that to Mary, that I thought that the sources were more appropriately fit in the bibliography, but it's essentially she's done that. It's amazing.
It's to have all of that in one place, but I don't have to.
Gotten two things. The paragraph that she's provided was based on your help, and then bless Mary, she went and found a definition of methodology from an Australian university. So,
Historical research.
yes. So, okay, that's, all right. So we're that's in process, but you're comfortable with it at this point.
Yeah, yes, I think the last version was fine as well. So I'm sure it's even better now.
Okay, good. Does anyone else have anything else to discuss? I appreciate it. I think you never know when I put down progress reports where we'll go, but I thought it was an excellent discussion. We being Ann, Denise, and I looked at the calendars, and we decided September 30th would be a good date because it's a week before the deadline, it's week before our history commission meeting. And if that's all right, I think it's 3 weeks from today. I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, 3 weeks from today.
Does that give us enough time?
Well, that's kind of like the next week is the history commission meeting. So I think by the 30th, we should really know where we are, and hopefully we are. In the meantime, please, when you send stuff in to Denise, please copy Ann and me if you can. And if you send something to me, copy Ann and Denise. If you send it to Ann, so that we all keep up. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And
I had one question. Just where are we with the guidelines and ARB and that? Like, did they get back to us?
that's their next meeting, isn't that right, Denise?
Not their next meeting, because that would be September. Well, let's see. I asked for the guidelines back by the history next meeting. Yes, you're right. It might. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I know.
And are they the only ones that we've reached out to for guidelines, or?
No, we have everything. I think we're set on guidelines. We were set early on.
Oh, good.
So
go ahead, Barbara.
I'm sorry. Well, it's we have, Denise, you do it, but we were,
Sure.
we were clear early on, we got that taken early.
We're using the National Trust,
Right,
Preservation Virginia,
right.
EHR,
And the advisory council,
and the Advisory Council.
all these national public history organizations, and I hope, we can reference them as that. Alexandria City, the process that they went through, and then the ARB, which they mentioned, and then the Park Authority, they mentioned that, and the Park Authority, you just quote their policy, and it's already, this is what they do to change names. It's a Park Authority policy, and the Park Authority board handles that, right, Liz?
Yes, the Park Authority, I can get you the exact policy number, but the policy manual is online, and there's a specific policy in there. The only other thing I wanted to say is, and I posted it in the chat earlier, is that when Patrick Lennon messaged me back, the date of the brochure is 2010. There was a reprinting, but not a change.
Okay, so it's 2010. It's in preparation for. Okay, we'll just include that in them. Okay.
For guidelines, would it be important to mention the Fairfax County Public Schools procedures? I mean, I think the Board of Supervisors would know it, but.
Well, we responded to what they listed.
Okay.
And other local governments. They listed ARB, they listed the Park Authority, and the other local governments, which is Fairfax City.
And we got a statement from Mayor Meyer.
Right, so that's Fairfax City. And then we're using the process. So I really think we're
okay
covered there.
Right.
ARB,
That's great.
after the meeting that Liz attended last month, she explained, you know, how they're going about it, and they're going to have their members write, and then it all comes to us. And isn't that where we're getting the advisory council information is for the member of the ARB whose name is, I'm blanking, is it another Chris?
No, it's online.
Well, but he also had referenced it.
Yes, Chris Daniel, which, yeah, it was actually, I went to the ARB and talked to them about this project, and I requested that they chime in because the Board of Supervisors had asked them to. And John Burns had already written informal comments, but they were going to formalize those and get those to us.
Right.
So, I mean, Tammy, to your point, I asked them to have them to us by 10/9, but they won't meet until 10/13, I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so that might be a little late. I can check with Laura Arsenault and see.
They meet tomorrow.
Oh, no, you're right. The 8th. It's the 8th. So they meet on the 8th, 10/8. I asked them to have the comments to us by 10/9.
So they can talk about it tomorrow.
Yep.
And
Or 9/9.
No, 10.
And we're at 9/9 here.
Yeah,
So
ARB's tomorrow night, right?
they do meet tomorrow, yes. And so they'll have a month before I've asked
I guess.
to turn them in.
Right.
It's just going to be, there's not going to be any editing. We're just going to drop it in.
Right.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
And I think the last we touched base on the big picture, is it DOT someplace as far as the cost, they asked for that, but that is just to be fed into our report, correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's not the county attorney, that is the Fairfax County DOT, right?
Yes. So I've collected information from both for the Virginia Department of Transportation and the Fairfax County Department of Transportation. So I have information from both of them
Right, okay,
on street renaming.
right. All right, anything else? I really appreciate all the time, and thank you all. Everyone's just doing super jobs, and so I'm personally very appreciative, and I wish I were in the trenches a little bit, but on the other hand, I think I hope I'm keeping us kind of moving this way. We'll see. So
Barbara, is it on the 30th? Is it 2 p.m. as usual?
yes, ma'am. 2:00 on the 30th. And Denise, thank you for sending out a new invite today, because it makes it much easier to find, because we all have so much email.
I remembered.
So thank you very much. Chris, thank you. And Liz, thank you for your time all afternoon. I know how busy you all are on other things too. So with that, I declare the meeting adjourned. Okay?
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Denise?
Yes.
Can I just read you my email here for tonight's
Sure.
meeting?
I'm going off. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Let me stop recording, Mary, just for a second. Let me just get my